Great. Thank you so much. Welcome to the MAG Economic Development Committee meeting for October 6, 2020. Good morning, everyone again. MAG staff will now take roll to ensure that we have a quorum present for the meeting. Please remember to mute your phones when you are not speaking.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Economic Development Committee. I'm going to go through the list of members, and please indicate if you're present when I call your name. Councilmember Barker. Councilmember Barker?
Here.
Okay.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Barney?
Here.
Thank you. Steve Betts? Steve, I thought I saw you on there.
Sorry, I had to unmute here.
That's okay, thank you. Tony Bradley? Vice Mayor Crane?
Here.
Angela Creedon? Superintendent Donovan?
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Edwards?
Here.
Thank you. Neil Giuliani?
Here.
Thank you. James Griffiths?
Here.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Guard. Councilmember Hampton?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Hermosillo?
Present.
Thank you. Central. Vice Mayor Keating?
Here.
Thank you. Jim Kenny? Councilmember Cordy? Mayor Laval?
Yes, Denise, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Governor Lewis? Vice Mayor Malnar?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Meck?
Present.
Councilmember Pineda? Darcy Renfro?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Thank you. Mark Sanders?
Here.
Thank you. Todd Sanders? Supervisor Sellers?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember September?
Here.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith? Daniel, I see you just said Daniel Spitza?
Here.
Mayor Tavar?
Present.
Thank you. Marisa Walker?
Here, sorry about that. I had to get off the mute.
That's okay. And Chair Luna is here, and I did see Angela come on. Is there anybody that I did not call that is present?
Yes. Did you say Vice Mayor Smith previously?
I did.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Denise. The web conference meeting of the MAG Economic Development Committee is now called to order. On behalf of the EDC, I would like to recognize Mayor Mack for his service. He's been instrumental in shaping the committee's vision and mission. Mayor Mack has served on the EDC since its inception, the first meeting in November of 2010. He was chair of the MAG Regional Council in 2017 to 2018 and chair of the EDC in 2018 to 2019. Mayor Mack has been supportive of the EDC's binational initiative. He also led a delegation of over 20 elected officials and business leaders to Calgary, Canada, with a focus on manufacturing and tourism. He has also been involved and supportive of the committee's Mexico initiative, including the Arizona Mega Region Council. The mayor will be retiring from city government, but he will continue to work on open spaces around the White Tank Mountains and restoration efforts in the Gila River. Thank you, Mayor Mack, for being an outstanding advocate for this region. Now let's give him a hand. Next is a call to audience. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting to the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour prior to the posted start time for the meeting. This is an opportunity for public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. MAG staff, have we received any public comment?
We received no public comment for this item or any other item on the agenda.
Thank you, Denise.
Mhm.
Our next item is approval of the August 4th, 2020 meeting minutes. Does any member of the EDC have any questions or comments on the minutes? Any comments? Any questions? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the August 4th, 2020 EDC meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
This is Vice Mayor Smith, second.
And who made the motion?
Steve Betts.
Thank you, Steve. We have a motion from Steve Betts and a second from Vice Mayor Smith. Is there any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. And
Aye.
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 Denise, are you doing a roll call on that?
Yeah, yes, I will. Thank you,
I'm
Chair.
sorry, guys, I have to do a roll call, so that's part of the process. Go ahead, Denise.
I will go through the list and you can indicate how you vote when I call your name. Councilmember Barker. Aye. Mayor Barney. Mayor Barney.
Aye.
Thank you. Steve Betts.
Aye.
Tony Bradley. Vice Mayor Crane.
Aye.
Angela Creedon. Aye. Thank you. Superintendent Donovan.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Edwards.
Aye.
Neil Giuliano.
Aye.
Thank you. James Griffiths.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Guardado. Councilmember Hampton.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Olmsio.
Aye.
Senator Hoffman.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Keating.
Aye.
Thank you. Jim Kenny. Councilmember Cordy. Mayor LaValle.
Yes.
Thank you. Governor Lewis. Vice Mayor Melnar.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Mack.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Pineda. Darcy Renfro.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Rowe.
Aye.
Thank you. Mark Sanders.
Aye.
Thank you. Todd Sanders. Supervisor Sanders.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember September.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Daniel Spitza.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Tavar.
Aye.
Thank you. Marisa Walker.
Aye.
Thank you. And Chair Luna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay. Did I miss anybody? Did I not call anybody? Okay. The agenda item has passed unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Denise. The next agenda item is a business development update from the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. Tim Bursat, Senior Director of Government and Community Affairs, will provide this report. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, committee members. I appreciate the availability for time. I'm going to give you a brief business development update, talk about some of GPEC's pivotal work during the COVID era, as well as discuss some of our FY21 action item milestones. While there are 6 main goals within our action plan, there are dozens of milestones and tasks. I will not be listing those all, but I will hit some of the top line milestones that do affect all of our work. And again, we appreciate the time today. Next slide, please. Very simple. Most of you know our mission to attract and grow quality businesses and advocate for greater Phoenix's competitiveness. That has been our mission and will continue to be our mission. And then on the right there is the GPEC way, our values. I won't go through them all, but these are items that we developed under the new strategic plan, which, by the way, the strategic plan is a 3-year plan, FY20 to FY22, with each year's action plan comprising that strategic plan. Next slide, please. Just a quick update. This was the final metrics for FY20. We had another record year, even with a bit of a tumultuous fourth quarter due to COVID. We were able to hit all well above our metric numbers. Again, 42 new companies with almost 10,000 jobs. We're very proud of that fact. As you know, we work with our 22 member communities and Maricopa County. Just wanted to give that snapshot. We felt very good coming out of FY20 as we go into FY21. Next slide, please. Next slide. So these are the year-to-date metrics, just a quick snapshot. Now I will note, as you see there, these are through August 31. We are in the process of validating our September numbers. So these are technically a month old, but I do have some updates here. As a reminder, our target metrics, which we use for each of our community contracts, as well as Maricopa County, are provided and analyzed by third-party economists. We do not do that in-house while we work with them. They are the ones that provide the targets, just as a note. But here you see, as of August, over 240 million in CapEx, 2,285 jobs with 8 companies. Since that time, we have added 3 more locates. We're now up to 2,935 jobs. We have over 366 million in capital expenditure, as well as 145 million in payroll. As a note, our contract goals for FY21 are 6,125 jobs, along with $340 million in payroll. So this is a very positive sign that through Q1, we're almost halfway to some of our top line metrics. I'm going to get into some of the business development pivoting during COVID, but some of our core work has helped us continue during this time. And next slide, please. Here you see our prospect activity. Again, a very healthy pipeline, 242 prospects. 51 of those are brand new in FY21. Some of those transfer over from FY20 with the, what you see, the cap investment and the jobs potential there. As a note, we generally convert about 15% of prospects overall, which turn into GPEC locates that we work with our communities. So, we like to say 10 to 15% of those generally will turn into prospects. But again, this is a very good sign that the pipeline is continuing even with this era during the pandemic that of companies looking to expand or relocate to the region. And this kind of brings me to goal 1 of our action milestone plan is to elevate the GPEC and Greater Phoenix brand regionally, nationally, and globally. Next slide, please. So this is our prospects by location. You'll see there, not a huge surprise, 25% from California. They're always going to be the gravy train. People are always looking to leave, and that is where a lot of our targeted automation, which I'll get into in a minute, through our marketing communications team, as well as our business development team, has focused over the last few months. More importantly, is the international prospects. You can see the list there. This is a big point, especially as we are looking to maintain our positioning worldwide. About a decade ago, and Steve Betts could probably speak to this, a decade ago, we had about 1% of our prospects coming internationally, and now that is quite a bit higher. And so, as you can see there, Canada is always going to be a major pipeline there, but also in Europe and Asia, there have been some high-level projects projects that we cannot discuss currently due to some legal positioning. But as you know, there are some large manufacturers coming over from the east, and we are trying to finalize that. But again, the international pipeline consistently is forwarding our metrics at this point, and that is really important, for our action plan milestones. Additionally, our goal 2 for our action plan is to attract and grow quality businesses through established programs and new models. As you saw, the prospect pipeline remains strong. Our business development team has not been on the road like they normally do. They have not been to conferences and sales missions. Most of those have been either completely postponed or switched to a virtual environment. But because of that, they are doing more online work, as we all are here. There has been a lot of site selector meetings that are being done virtually that we have done internally. We have a program next month with all of our community economic development directors to get in front of those site selectors. And granted, it is virtual, but we are all pivoting to the new normal, so we will continue to do that. One thing that we've seen is an uptake in industrial projects. Generally speaking, and historically, we have about 60% office prospects with about 40% industrial manufacturing. That is basically flipped. We're actually seeing about a 70% pipeline right now for industrial projects, with office comprising about 30% of that. We are seeing that start to balance out. We are seeing more office prospects coming through. They were the first to delay during the pandemic. And again, not ending it, but they wanted to delay because they needed to come in person and see what the collateral was available in the region. And so because of that, our team has been busy. We have had client meetings in person every week for the last 6 weeks. All of the meetings are well under CDC guidelines, socially distanced, and safe. If you've been in the GPEC boardroom, it is kind of funny to see 8 people meeting in a giant room, but we will do it safe and we'll do it soundly, and we will continue with that. Some other items that our business development team has done is focused on what can we do now that we're not on the road. So we generally do windshield tours with our economic development directors at our communities, where we will go, we will see their new buildings, new collateral, and things that they want to highlight to prospective clients. That again, we're doing virtual now, which actually has been very efficient because most of these communities have online tools and links. And so the entire business development team, as well as other GPEC staff, are able to join these tours and spend a couple hours with each of our communities getting that updated information. Now's the time to get out there and to update all of our material so that we are ready for when they start coming back through. Next slide, please. Next slide. And so as the look forward, and I'm going to get into a few more of the milestones before I end for questions here, we understand the importance of this pandemic. It is going to take time to get through this. That being said, we need to remain strong. We need to, continue our work with business attraction and improving the competitiveness of the region. As I went through some of those metrics, we are in a very strong position, and we intend for that to keep. We are monitoring all of the local economic issues, from unemployment to industries that are being affected, moving forward with our communities, our 22 communities, and we work with them. During COVID, there was a lot of work on the PPP program and CARES Act, and basically setting up online toolkits and even live function chat and calls for individuals who are applying for loans. We've worked that through our partner communities. Many of our communities had their own programs that they're running. So really, at the end of the day, it was great to see the region come together. Again, this is not an easy time for anybody, but many of the members on this community, on this committee, and with our community workers, both private and public sector, have really set the region up for a strong positioning as we move into FY21, or as we're there. One thing that helped that, and this is our third goal, is drive the region forward through enhanced research and data analytics capabilities. I'm here to tell you, our research and analytics team update us on what they do, and I understand about half of it, but they are very smart, and they continue to delve into that with targeted programs like Python and coding, which allows for more narrowly tailored outreach to businesses, both domestically and internationally. One of the key things has been to develop and identify early companies in the venture capital process. So through some of our analytics, they're able to identify these entities that are either applying for and receiving VC, which has been a point in which we've had to catch up with. Arizona has not been a strong position for that. We are trying to change that to get in front of these entities that are receiving that funding. Of course, many of which are coming from California. So we will continue, we will continue those missions to try to draw those companies here. Additionally, one thing, and I will make this available for anybody who needs to reach out, again, as we're not in the office, but focused, is to update all of our industry use cases. We have those available for public consumption. And if anybody on this Zoom would like that, I can send those your way. We have everything from advanced manufacturing, A&D, autonomous vehicles, cybersecurity, e-commerce distribution, logistics, finance and insurance, healthcare and bio, and of course, semiconductor and software and IT. What these industry use cases are is they give a nice running list of all of those industries currently in the state, job numbers, things like that. And so that helps not only our communities who want to know where these industries are going, but also like industries when they're looking at the state, so they know what other players are already here in the market and how they can work with them. The fourth goal, promote stakeholder engagement through meaningful content. Many of you are part of the GPIC Ambassador Program. We have continued that, obviously online and virtually over the summer with regional reports on industries, as well as teeing up some of our ambassador events. We have a large network now. We're actually at 2,000 plus, and we will continue to do like we did in FY20. We utilized the ambassador network for key legislative outreach when we had some things coming up in the legislature dealing with economic development incentives and an opt-in for anybody to get involved and things like that. We will continue to push that. The big thing for us are the last two goals. Goal 5, build a resilient economy through comprehensive planning that focuses on inclusion, diversity, and equity. A modern economy is more important than ever now. We are implementing a recovery plan with input from our GPEC community members to rebound from this downturn and build an economy that is more resilient. One thing that GPEC staff have been actively involved with is a DEI pledge, so a diversity and equity and inclusion pledge, with community leaders in this field, as well as working with, I know the Maricopa County is going to be working on something similar to that. An inclusive and diverse workforce and economy will grow this region moving forward, and we look forward to the work that is going to continue in FY21. Now, the last milestone here is goal 6, be a leader in economic development through relentless commitment to organizational culture in the GPEC way. On that second slide there, we had the GPEC way, and is basically going above and beyond where we can. We are committed to a core set of values. These values drive us to be on the cutting edge of economic development. And through this, GPEC is investing in its staff and resources through professional development, increased knowledge management, and streamlined operational processes. I can probably update the milestones later, probably in the spring, as we get a little bit closer, but that is what I have for now. I hope I did not speak too fast. I wanted to get under the 5 to 10 minutes I was allotted, but I am open for any questions, Mr. Chair, or any other committee members.
Thank you, Tim, for that great presentation. Are there any questions from the membership?
Yeah, I had a question.
Go ahead.
Hey, Tim. So are there cities in our community that are struggling with the virtual tours? I mean, are most of the city partners, are they able to, I guess, are they able to show off their city well right now? Or is it, or are they, there's some cities that are doing really, really well and some that are not? And is there a way to improve that?
Good question, Councilman Hampton. I appreciate it. So I can check with the BD team. I know a few communities have not signed up yet, but I can tell you that your community of Goodyear is doing very well in this, but along with our other major cities, most of them have transitioned to, again, an online repository for most of their properties. And as your community has a lot of space coming online in the next year, even just the availability to see those through these virtual tours with maps and showing where the buildings are has kind of been the common theme. That way the BD team can position them, know where they are, know the square footage, but almost every community has developed some form of online kit that we can follow along with. It is on Zoom. And so very similar to this, but most of the communities within the region, at least under the GPEG banner, have been doing a fantastic job in this lane.
Okay, no, that's great. In my mind, I was thinking like what real estate agents, I see them do with like drone footage and things like that.
And there has been some of those,
Walkthrough.
councilmen. Some people do have some more advanced 3D tours and things like that. You know, on the GPEC side, we just want to know where it is,
Where they
what
are.
the space is, and where we can sell it to better help y'all on council and mayor. But what we might do at the end, and I'll check in with the BD team, is to maybe get a best practices list, because as we keep joking around, this is the new normal. We will see a hybrid work environment of telecommuting and in person. And so those online tools are very helpful. So
Yeah.
I'll work with, Lori, Gary in your community, as well as the other economic development directors, and we can provide a list of what we see that works well and can be improved upon.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you. Good job, Tim.
Any other questions for Tim? All right, this item on the agenda is for information and discussion only. The next item on the agenda is the draft MAG policy principles, a document that summarizes MAG's legislative position and the agency's role and responsibility. Nathan Pryor, MAG's Policy and Government Relations Director, will provide an update on the draft policy principles. Mr. Pryor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Economic Development Committee. As the chairman stated, the MAG policy principles are a range of specific legislative items to broader roles and responsibilities for the agency. We've developed this a few years ago. It's been very useful in a number of ways. Go to the next slide, please. One of the uses is as a leave behind. So when we have meetings with state legislators, congressional offices, or others, you can tell maybe that this is a trifold brochure. So that's a handy leave behind to, again, share what the MAG agency is about. Probably more importantly, however, is that this is an approved set of policy principles. So by that, I mean, this is something that we can draw upon during a period of time. We've been revising this brochure, these policy principles annually. So if there's something that comes up during the course of a year, we have approved policy principles, which we can turn back to and hopefully act in a nimble and appropriate manner. If you go to the next slide, please. So hopefully you've had time to review these. These were in the agenda packet. I'm going to call your attention to a number of these. Most of these have not changed since last year or the prior years. A little bit of wordsmithing, a little bit of edits and cleanup as we go along. Of note here to this committee is we do have the Southwest Tourism Expansion Act listed. That, of course, we are supporting that effort, otherwise known as the Border Crossing Card expansion. So that is in our policy principles. And we go to the next slide, please. I want to call attention to two specific policy principles. The first is regarding enabling legislation of the regional sales tax for transportation. So obviously, if you've been following it, the MAG Regional Transportation Plan is being developed currently. The current half-cent sales tax is set to expire at the end of 2025. So we are working on our planning efforts currently. With that in mind, we get a lot of questions about the enabling legislation portion. In the September timeframe, we did have a draft statement on this. We are grateful to work with county staff and doing some edits to this. We think it better captures the kind of process that we are currently in right now. So as we head into the 2021 legislative session, this is noting that we are continuing the development of the plan, and that we look to for future pursue enabling legislation for that extension. That is to say that just that we are developing the plan currently. However, if there was a clear opportunity or path forward in the 21 session of which the MAG member agencies could agree upon, certainly we would move on that opportunity. The next slide, please. This is a new statement. It's under our administration banner. This is regarding prohibition of discrimination in our planning, delivery programs, efforts, and initiatives. We felt as staff, as an agency, it was important to note that we prohibit discrimination in all of our efforts. So this is more for the member agencies as a reminder, but also for our public that we serve as well. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. This item is on for recommendation of action. It is also going through, of note, our other policy committees this month, including Management Committee tomorrow, the Transportation Policy Committee later this month, and going to Regional Council for final approval at the end of the month. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it. Are there any questions from the membership on this new policy?
Mr. Chairman, this is Darcy Renfro from Maricopa Community Colleges. This is a sort of a newbie question, I think, but I know this is the Economic Development Committee, but I'm curious as to whether or not you've ever considered any workforce development policy items for this policy agenda in looking at things like how do we reskill individuals within that are currently employed and maybe re-employ those that are unemployed, those kinds of issues that will keep existing companies and regions strong throughout the region. And there may be, I'm sure there's a reason for that, but I'm more curious than anything.
Mr. Chairman, members of the EDC, thank you for the question. These are more broad agency roles, responsibilities, and positions. And now, obviously, with that being said, some are more specific than others regarding legislation. We can certainly take a look at, under the economic development banner, what opportunities there might be. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. That might fall under more specific policy programmatic considerations under the Economic Development Committee, but we can definitely take a look at that. So thank you.
Any other questions from the membership? Hearing none, this item is on the agenda for recommendation for approval. So we're going to need a motion to approve the draft MAG policy principles. Can I have a motion and a second? And if you wouldn't mind telling me who's making the motion and who is doing the second.
So moved. Mayor Keating.
Mayor Keating, the motion.
Second, Councilmember Barker.
Barker. All righty. Is there any discussion on the motion? So we have a motion from Vice Mayor Keating and seconded by Councilmember Barker. So we're going to go through that process again. Denise will do a roll call vote. So we'll need those that are in favor to go ahead and say they're supporting, those in opposition, and those abstaining. Alrighty, Denise, I'll have you go ahead and do the roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair. This is the last time, I believe, for today. So I'm going to go through the list of members, and when I call your name, let me know how you vote. Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Mayor Barney.
Aye.
Steve Betts.
Yes.
Tony Bradley. Vice Mayor Crane.
Aye.
Angela Creedon.
Aye.
Superintendent Donovan.
Aye.
Councilmember Edwards.
Aye.
Neil Giuliano.
Aye.
Thank you. James Griffiths.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Hampton.
Aye.
Mayor Hermosillo. Senator Hoffman.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Keating.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor LaVault.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Malnar. Mayor Mack.
Aye.
Darcy Renfro.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Rowe.
Aye.
Thank you. Nick Sanders.
Aye.
Thank you. Supervisor Sellers.
Aye.
Councilmember September.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Daniel Spitza.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Tavar.
Aye.
Thank you. Marisa Walker.
Aye.
Thank you. And Chair Luna, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone I did not call?
Yes.
Councilmember Malner, you may have missed me. My phone went off.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you,
And
Same with
Denise?
Mayor Hermosillo. I was on mute, and my
Okay.
vote is an aye.
Thank you.
Denise, Councilmember Cordy, I came in late to the meeting and my vote is aye.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Cordy. Anybody else? Okay, the agenda item has passed unanimously.
Great, the agenda moves forward then, the agenda item, thank you. The next item on the agenda is an update on current regional economic trends and resources in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Anubhav Bagley, MAG's Regional Analytics Director, will lead the discussion. Anubhav?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Economic Development Committee. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to give you a brief overview of the economy at this time in our region. Next slide, please. So I'm going to cover a wide variety of topics in about 15 minutes or so. Each one of these could be a separate presentation by themselves. So this is a really high level, broad brush, and then I'm happy to answer questions and take this further as the committee would require. Next slide, please. In terms of unemployment, this is the big thing that we've been talking about at this stage. This is preliminary numbers for our region. For August 2020, the unemployment rate for our region is about 5.9%. This is definitely better than where it was last month. Last month in July, this number was about 10.3%. As you can see, in April of this year, as we were in the throes of the pandemic, the economy was shut down, we had about 310,500 workers that were out of work. Even at this stage, we are about 40% higher than the January number. But the concerning part about this number, though it looks good, it is 141,000 lower than everything that we've seen since the pandemic. The concerning part is to understand behind the scenes, is this decline due to people leaving the workforce? Is this decline due to women or caretakers staying at home, taking care of children as school starts, etc.? So one has to keep on top of these numbers to understand how the economy is progressing. Next slide, please. MAG staff has been working with the Arizona Department of Economic Security, and on a bi-weekly basis, we are collecting data on unemployment insurance. Unemployment insurance becomes a leading indicator of what we start seeing coming out in the unemployment numbers. So the one number really is that for Phoenix metro area at this time, as of September 24th, within the time period of August 25th to September 24th, we had about 147,000 benefits being paid for unemployment. Overall, since the beginning, since the middle of March, this number has been about 550,000. So most of these benefits at this time are coming off of the pandemic assistance programs. The dollar amounts are lower than what they were when the big numbers were coming out and we had extra federal assistance. But the map here really shows you a spatial pattern of which areas are currently impacted higher than others. So the darker colors here are areas where the darkest colors are where people, more than 2,000 people are receiving benefits at this time. So those are definitely of high concern, but also the map is showing you the areas which have not been highly impacted, and that could possibly be because of where our essential workforce lives and where that is available. There is a link at the bottom of the slide that gives you a link to place on MAG's website where we are updating these maps and analysis on an ongoing basis. Next slide, please. One piece about this analysis is looking at who really is being impacted from in the workforce itself, what is happening, who is unemployed at this time. So yes, we know that the service sector, the retail sector has been highly impacted. I've been exchanging emails with people in the sector related to the live entertainment economy, and they are completely decimated at this time. But what this slide is showing you is the data coming on the wages side of stuff. Now, this is lagging data. This is from August, but what you see again is trend is very similar. The lines are showing you what happened with percent change in employment by different wage levels. So the red is the high wage. So workers making $60,000 or more annually were impacted the maximum. Everybody was pretty much impacted the maximum in about late March, early May, early April. but they have kind of started recovering. That part of the economy, that percent of unemployment, that there's only about 3% impact there. But on the other side, about 25% of our workforce in the low wage side, those making less than 27,000, which ties in with workers in restaurants, the service sector, live entertainment, any of that service industry has been highly impacted by this at this time. Obviously, we'll keep watching on this and seeing as this data starts coming forward. Next slide, please. One of the data pieces that MAG has joined in a consortium with a group out of California called SafeGraph is data coming from approximately 70,000 business locations in our region and about 200,000 some cell phones coming to these business locations on a weekly basis. Well, this data gets us this live picture of what is happening in terms of usage of these areas, or how many cell phones are coming in and how they are compared to the same time last year. So the current data I'm going to show you is for September 21st, the week of September 21st. We are updating this data weekly, and there are interactive charts available on MAG's website at that link. Next slide, please. And so what you see in this next chart really is that pattern that you've been seeing in all my other slides, is that we were doing pretty well. In about February, we were actually performing about 15% higher than the same time last year. So green line here is the Phoenix metro area, blue is Arizona. They're both about the same. We are that large part of that economy. But what you're seeing is in January, February, that was great season for us. Right about we're getting into spring training. We were doing about 15% higher activity levels. This is not dollars spent, this is activity level as compared to last year. And then we got hit by the pandemic. March 20th, we started sliding. Bars and gyms and theaters were getting closed. March 30th, we get to that stay-at-home order. And right in that early April, we are at that bottom. And at that level, if you look at that chart, it's showing us that we were at about 44% of activity to the same time last year when things were normal. At this time today, we are at about 72%. So as you forward look through that graph, you see that somewhere about in July, as things started opening up, bars and theaters and gyms had started opening up in early before June, we had gotten to about 80%. Then we started coming down again. At this time, we're at about 75%. Mind you, this is activity of cell phones showing up at these locations. Next slide, please. So the data we have on that web link is actually by different business sectors, by different parts of our economy. And here we've just taken a couple of these sectors and started to highlight some of them. What's very interesting here, electronic stores are at about 68%, auto dealers at about 84%. Not a big surprise. As of right now, we are getting about 67% of activity showing up in hotels, motels, as compared to the same time last year. Same deal with restaurants and bars at about 78% as compared to the same time last year. What's interesting here, you see that home improvement stores are doing better. You're seeing more activity there. And that anecdotally, we've all done that. We're at home, evenings, weekends, there are home improvement projects that we are engaging in. So that's very interesting. Next slide, please. The next piece of this, really, we're taking this discussion is the transaction privilege tax. So this is the tax that is being collected by Arizona Department of Revenue, and this is what then is feeding to our member agencies, all our cities and towns in MAG region. At this time, as compared to the same time last year, we are higher. We're doing good. We're doing okay. We have come out from this perspective for now, but that is not across all sectors. Overall, as compared to August 2019, we are 12% higher, but this includes a big online component, which is now 75% higher. That online taxation, sales tax taxation started in October, and that comparative is to the March time period, and that is we are higher by about 75%. Not a big surprise. A lot of people are buying a lot of stuff online, whether it's groceries or all kinds of retail goods that we're purchasing. The concerning numbers here, hotels at about negative 36%, restaurants about negative 15%. Obviously, this is month to month, doesn't include the large numbers across the board. Next slide, please. Moving on to the next part of my discussion, that's part 3 of my discussion, is looking at the real estate and housing trends. And next slide, please. First piece that I'm looking at is residential and commercial permit activity. So months from one quarter to another, since 2020 of Q1 to Q2, so we declined on residential permits in terms of value by about 18%. Commercial declined by about 43%. So definitely new construction activity has seen a slowdown. In residential, last year, 2019 Q2 was the highest at permits valued at about 2.73 billion pulled. This last quarter, we were about 30% lower than that at about 1.93 billion. On the commercial side, 2.54 billion was our high in 2019 Q3. So both in 2019, we're at about 1.3 billion at this time in the last quarter. So definitely this could be something that is coming down the pipeline, is that we're seeing that construction activity is definitely slowing down across both residential and commercial side of things. Next slide, please. But along with the construction activity, we also have access to and looking at data on vacancy rates. This is where things kind of start tying into what Tim was talking about and his update about activity in the office sector. You're seeing that currently in 2020 Q3, the vacancy rate was estimated about 12.5%. This is projected to go up higher by the staff at CoStar. What's concerning here really is this is just the vacancy rate. What this does not include is businesses that are actually now looking at selling their space or subleasing their space or downsizing. And I've heard a lot of numbers and stories of businesses that are looking at that, but at this time, the availability rate is about 16.5%. The highest percent of that availability rate is in Class A, Class B office space, which is close to about 20% at this time. So this is an impact where businesses are evaluating their future plans, looking at productivity with work at home, and then understanding what are their needs on the office space perspective. The one that CoStar considers or looks at as being grim is our retail space. Retail vacancy rates at this time are estimated at about 7.4%, projected to go in the 8% plus. And that is primarily with the fact that a lot of we're familiar with all restaurants, et cetera, that have currently gone out of business or shut down. And that's something to keep an eye on and see what's going on. The industrial space has generally been doing well, and that industrial includes data centers, flex spaces, et cetera. Currently at 7.8, it's projected to grow, but a lot of that growth is also because of new construction activity. But that is primarily because there is a higher demand with a lot more online sales. There's a higher demand for warehousing and that last mile delivery. And you're seeing that. So that is one bright spot, but that does not generate a whole lot of jobs, but does use space from our perspective. Next slide, please. So moving on to the final piece is the housing market that I'd like to bring up to everybody's attention. The housing market, the gray line here is showing you the sales for last year, 2018, 2019. Green line is showing you the sales for 1920. Last month, August 2020 July and August were record months according to staff at ARMLS. And the sales at about 8878 number of units that were closed, which is about the same as the same last year. But what you see on the chart is that there was a big decline. There was a huge decline in sales between April and May, but then there was a run up after that. Next slide, please. The bigger concern at this time is that we have a lack of inventory, of housing inventory. We are at about minus 23% as compared to last year. So our current inventory is about 13,500 units listed for sale. That accounts for only about 1.5 months inventory. That's concerning. Obviously, our total inventory has been lower. It did see a run up as we got into the pandemic in March, April, and then it started coming down again. But what that is indicating, and the next slide, please, confirms that we are in a major seller's market at this time. Our median sales price for Maricopa County, which is the blue line, increased within a year from $287,000 to $330,000. Pinal County's also gone up from about 231 to 260,000. That is a 15.9% increase in median sales price for homes in our region. Next slide, please. And we've mapped that data. This data is mapped by zip code. Most of this is green. Green is an increase. Those minor ones that you're seeing in that golden rod color are slight declines, but those declines were because of year to year. These were more related to unit types. So earlier they were selling more single family. Now there are more condos being sold, so the prices are a little lower. We have not broken this out. The darkest green are areas showing you where prices increased by more than 25%. Most of that green, that mid-level green, is 10 to 25% price increases in our region by zip code. Next slide, please. Related to the housing price side of stuff and looking at the housing, one of the pieces we're also looking at with data coming from Maricopa County Justice Courts is evictions. Currently, evictions are at about 53% of what they were in the same time last year. Generally, what you're finding is that in our county, we were getting about 6,000 evictions per month. We've been trending at about a quarter of that, about 1,500 to 2,000, though you suddenly start seeing a little uptake in August and September. September was just under 3,000. But the big issue here really is that we had the Arizona moratorium on evictions that started in March, and then we had the federal moratorium on evictions that started in September, that the moratorium continues till end of December. The big question, the key question is that moratorium possibly gets you to defer the payments for this rent. If you're not able to make payments, you do not get evicted, but you do have to make payments right after that moratorium is over. So is this a pent-up demand for possible future evictions in a market where housing prices and rental prices are going up? Could be quite concerning going forward. Next slide, please. The final piece that I'd like to, this is the evictions part, another set of maps. The left map shows you evictions in 2019. That's about 68,000. The darkest colors are where you had the highest number of evictions. The map on the right is the evictions till date in September by zip code. There's only a few areas that are above 1,000 evictions in those zip codes. The rest are much lower. If that picture gets started correcting and starts moving towards what the left is, that could possibly create a lot of concerns for our economy and the housing market. Next slide, please. The final piece I'd like to kind of combine with this is looking at the housing affordability part of things. So this is data coming from census, where we've looked at housing cost and housing and income. And what you're finding is about 30% of the households in our region, so about 478,000 households, are paying more than 30% of their income on housing. The areas on the map that are red are where households, more than 45% of households in those areas are paying more than 30% of their income on housing. What's more concerning is that 87% of these households are making below $60,000 per year, and 50% of these households are single worker households. So that then tends to connect back to that eviction piece. Is this a problem that could possibly come in and hit us early next year? Final slide, next slide, please. My final slide really takes that same analysis, and instead of just looking at 30%, this really starts showing us the most vulnerable households, where 212,000 some households in our region are paying more than 50% on housing, and 46% of these are single worker households. So that is the highest vulnerability. The darkest colors here are showing you where more than 35% of households are in that piece. So these definitely are, next slide, please. Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation. In general, I would say that there are a lot of trends that MAG staff is looking at. We have a lot of data we're looking at. I'm happy to come back with additional analysis, et cetera, on any one of these topics. And particularly, MAG staff is working further on looking at the rental market and the housing market as it impacts our workforce. So if there's interest, I'm happy to come back. I'd finally just ask if Mr. Eric Anderson, our executive director, would like to add anything to this presentation. I guess not, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to take any questions.
Doesn't sound like he's jumped in yet. So thank you very much, Mr. Bagley. Are there any questions from the membership? All righty. There's like no questions. Thank you, Mr. Bagley. Look forward to your next presentation. This item has an agenda for information discussion only. We're going to move on to item 7, COVID-19 effects on Arizona tourism and trade with North America. Elsa Beljan and Supna Gupta from the MAG Regional Economic Development Group will present their ongoing analysis of the latest economic indicators on the state's trade relationship with its North American partners. Go ahead, ladies.
Sapna? Sapna, it seems like you're on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
Is this easier?
Yes, now we can hear you. Good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Economic Development Committee. As Anubhav has discussed, some important patterns have emerged 6 months into the pandemic. Our presentation examines the effect on 2 key elements of Arizona's economy: the tourism and leisure sector, and trade with the state's largest partners, Mexico and Canada, and what it means for the future of integrated just-in-time supply chains that form the backbone of trade. Next slide, please. So today we have released a white paper, and the focus of this white paper is important because together, Mexico and Canada account for 44% of the state's international trade footprint, which has grown steadily over the past decade. In order to find solutions to grow the economy, we need to measure what's been affected. This is the first step towards developing policies to mitigate the economic downturn and encourage economic growth. The focus of this paper is on the tourism and associate sectors because they support a lot of jobs in the state and because they have been so deeply affected, as Anubhav has shown in his presentation. And we also examine supply chains with our North American partners because of how integrated Arizona's manufacturing and production sectors have become. Arizona's trade footprint economy would be able to return to pre-pandemic levels if infection rates remain under control and if local, state, and federal policies are enacted to continue containing the spread until a vaccine and effective treatment are widely available. And in an ideal world, a coordinated North American response would ensure that our interconnected economies come back faster together. Let's start by looking at how different sectors of the regional economy have been affected. Next slide, please. 6 months in, we can see how the job losses experienced by the different sectors have affected the economy. We learned at the February EDC meeting that 320,000 jobs depend on the hospitality sector. We now see, here you can see from the bottom chart, that the sector has been affected the most, with 61,000 jobs lost between February and August 2020. Other hard-hit sectors include professional and business services and education. With business, sports, and entertainment events canceled, airline passenger traffic has also plummeted, and we present these numbers in more detail in our white paper. Next slide, please. The important thing to know is that after an initial shutdown of borders, commercial traffic, including freight, is no longer restricted between the US, Canada, and Mexico. Manufacturing and assembly lines in the US, Mexico, and Canada border have resumed. Operations and freight is again moving across borders. Now, when it comes to the travel situation with Canada, land borders are closed to tourists on both sides of the borders. But Canadian visitors can fly into the US without quarantine restrictions. This is an important distinction. Our state normally welcomes over 1 million Canadians per year, and over 100,000 Canadians own homes in the state. Now, it's notable that 4 different Canadian insurance companies have announced just in the last 2 weeks that they will cover COVID-19 treatment for Canadians traveling abroad, and that's important for us. Now, infection and hospitalization rates staying low will be an important factor in making sure that Canadian and American snowbirds are comfortable traveling back to Arizona. Let's take a look at the trends in trade with Canada. Next slide, please. When we look at trade numbers, there was a dip in exports and imports in April, but then an interesting story has emerged specific when it comes to imports from Canada. While the first 6 months of 2020 saw a decrease in exports to Canada by about 13% compared to the prior year, imports have actually increased by 50%, as you can see here, during that same period. Arizona has actually bucked the national trend with this jump in imports, and it's actually a pattern that predates the pandemic. This jump is due to several factors, including demand in lumber, transportation, and electronic equipment. As for freight throughout North America, demand might be catching up with capacity in the industry. Now, this is partly due to rebound in retail sales, and we saw some of those numbers in Anubhav's presentation. For the month of August, retail sales nationally were up 2.6% year over year. E-commerce has emerged as the bright spot in this economy, and large retailers like Amazon, of course, and then Target and Walmart that have online operations that were already established, they've consolidated their market share, actually at the expense of mall-based stores. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this economic shock has caused some sharp downturns, and some sectors have rebounded partially. As we discussed in the white paper, the pandemic has accelerated certain underlying trends, notably the shift to e-commerce. And it also presents some opportunities in supply chain management going forward. The resilience and safety of supply chains is going to be critical for manufacturers and retailers. This presents an opportunity for the region as it becomes an even more important logistics and distribution hub, one that is home to ASU's world-renowned supply chain management program. The focus now includes ensuring resilience and reliability, and part of that means is shrinking the risk presented by far-flung, complex supply chains, with reshoring and nearshoring as a possibility going forward. It also means investing in product lines with less complex supply chains, such as electric cars and trucks, and managing risks using new software monitoring tools. We go into much greater detail in our white paper, and we remain available for follow-up questions as you have a chance to read over in the coming days. I will now hand it over to Elsa for a discussion on the effects on tourism and the trade relationship with Mexico.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you, Sabna, Economic Development Committee Chair Luna. My name is Elsa Belgin, and as my colleague Sabna mentioned, I will be sharing with you about Mexico's role in the regional supply chain and provide an overview of the essential business determination by the Mexican government to slow the spread of COVID-19, specifically on how the export manufacturing industry is recovering after the shutdown of operations in March this year. Furthermore, I will be talking about Arizona's trade with Mexico and the importance of US-Mexico tourism. Next slide, please. So, as well as my colleague mentioned, the border crossings with Mexico are currently closed to non-essential travelers. Our research includes Mexico's reopening plan that established that after June 1st, manufacturing industries were considered essential and had to follow the COVID-19 traffic light monitoring system. This comprises four colors from red to green that determine the state contagion risk and the activities that are allowed in that specific state. Next slide, please. There's a strong tie between the United States and Mexico production and export rates. While the lowest peak in the United States industry occurred in April, Mexico's manufacturing plants occurred in May. In May, the overall production shutdown of the manufacturing industry affected exports to the United States by a rate of 57%. After reopening, Mexico's auto industry is working to catch up to the demand by automakers in the United States for supplier parts and in-demand vehicles after falling behind for almost 2 months. The white paper depicts the car makers that are displaying on your screen who currently manufacture in Mexico. You will also find a section on the importance of the automotive industry in the state of Sonora and the recent announcement of the Ford Bronco SUV production line at the Hermosillo assembly plant. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about Arizona's trade with Mexico. Next slide, please. Truck crossing between Arizona and Mexico showed a decrease of less than 5% in July 2020 compared to the prior year. This is good news. The largest impact, however, was in commodities transported via rail, decreasing almost by 17%. Next slide, please. Our white paper focuses in Arizona's exports to North America. As you know, exporting means entering a global market. It is a competitive endeavor, and market disruptions affect sales immediately. Export businesses in Arizona have found that North America is a reliable and profitable partner. Mexico is Arizona's first export destination. In 2019, Arizona exported $8.18 billion worth of products to Mexico, holding a steady trend since 2015. However, due to COVID-19, you can observe that there's a sharp contrast in the reduction of exports to Mexico compared to the exports to Canada and China. Next slide, please. Data shows that the biggest exports during the first half of 2020 were minerals and ores, followed by computer and electronic products and other manufacturing products. There's a notable decrease in the most prominent exports, and we'll explain further in the next slide. Next slide, please. Here we can explore Arizona's manufacturing products. Ooh, one back, please. Arizona manufacturing products in April dropped 246 million, almost 45% from its value a year ago. However, during the months of June and July, you can see that it reached almost the same amount of the exports at the pre-pandemic levels. Next slide, please. Arizona's total exports from January through June decreased by more than 700 million in the same period in 2019. Arizona isn't alone among these borders, among the decrease in exports. As you can see, the state of Texas and California also presented a similar decrease. Next slide, please. There were more than $1 billion worth of fresh products imports from January through June, only considering a drop of 4.6%. However, next slide, please. The most important drop was the Arizona's manufactured imports from Mexico by 43%. Transportation equipment saw a reduction of 155 million. This may be related to the shutdown of operations of the Mexican manufacturing industry from March to the beginning of June, as I have explained in the supply chain segment before. Next slide, please. The following is an overview of the importance of US-Mexico tourism. Next slide, please. The US has historically been a key market for Mexico tourism industry. During the period of January through July of this year, there were more than 6 million American visitors arriving via air into Mexico, representing 55% of the total international arrivals. You can see at the table there are the top destinations were Cancun, Guadalajara, Los Cabos, Mexico City. And also you can all notice that there's a decrease sign in them, meaning the comparison from 2019. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about Arizona. In 2018, Mexican visitation volume almost reached 4 million, in which 16% stayed overnight, with each party spending an average of $839 per trip. The preferred location for those overnight stays were the Metro Phoenix area, followed by Tucson. In the white paper, we analyzed the border crossing data, and we saw that there are more than 0.5% reduction in pedestrian crossing into Arizona. Next slide, please. To enter presentation, our research mentions strategies to market the Mexican tourism, such as the AC Safe and Clean guidelines and the current flight connections to Mexico that we have through the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, and the Southwest Tourism Expansion Act mentioned by our Policy Director, Nathan Pryor today. We encourage you to contact us for more details. With that, Chair Luna and members of the committee, Sabna and I, we're open for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Are there any questions from the membership? All righty, thank you for the presentation. I happened to read the white paper before this meeting. Excellent information. So I would encourage our membership to really look at that information. It's certainly pertinent to what's going on right now here in Arizona. Thank you, ladies. This item is on the agenda for information discussion only. Next, request for future agenda items. Are there any from the membership, an item for future agenda that you would like to talk about?
Actually, Chair, this is Sintra Hoffman, if I may.
Hi, Sintra.
I have an announcement that I know will come a little bit later on, but along with that announcement, I think I'd like to suggest that we get an update on the Luke Air Force Base Targeted Growth Management Plan. There's been a lot of work that's been done on that plan over the last year, and with MAG's leadership and getting all of the stakeholders together in the West Valley. And so I think it would be great to have an update. We also did a launch on September 23rd to promote what's been going on, the work behind it. And that launch was with my videos with myself, Mayor Wires, and Brigadier General Kruder. So I think there's a lot of great stuff that's happened. And the growth targeted plan, from those of you who may not know, it's looking at the expansion mode that Luke Air Force Base is in and identifying the issues that need to be addressed as a result. And that would be obviously education and workforce, housing, economic development, and transportation. And so I think it would be great to get an update from the group on that.
Great. Thank you, Sintra. Appreciate that. Any other future agenda items? All right. Are there any comments from the membership?
So, Chair, this is Sintra again. I do have another comment.
Okay, go ahead, Sintra.
So I'd like to congratulate my favorite mayor of the city of Buckeye, Mayor Jackie Mack, on his retirement. And I'm really proud to say that the Westmark Board of Directors will be honoring Mayor Mack with the Inspiration and Leadership Award at our annual Best of the West event. And it is an in-person event. It's very socially distanced, and all safety precautions are being taken care of. But we're so honored to be able to celebrate Mayor Mack that evening with the Inspiration and Leadership Award. As we all know, it is very, very, very well deserved. So congratulations to Mayor, and I can't wait to see you.
Absolutely, congratulations, Mayor Mack. We appreciate all your contributions all these years. So thank you so much. All righty, any other announcements from the membership?
This is Angela.
Yes, hi, Angela.
Hi, I didn't jump in earlier, but I wanted to thank Anubhav again for his presentation. I thought the information was absolutely critical for what we're experiencing right now, and we'll look forward to him diving into that information in future agendas. So thank him again for his presentation.
Thank you, Angela. Yes, we need to thank staff for those wonderful presentations and for those updates, which are certainly important and very timely during this time. So thank you staff for all your hard work, and we look forward for future agenda items.
Do we get a copy of that in the future? His presentation?
Let's talk to Denise about it. I'm sure we will.
Okay.
Right, Denise?
Yes, Chairman and members of the Economic Development Committee. It is now posted on the website, so you can download it from there. Just let us know if you have trouble finding it.
Great. There you go. Now we do get a copy. Thank you so much. Any other comments? All righty. Now the meeting is now adjourned. The next meeting for the Economic Development Committee will be held on December 1st, 2020. We look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.